Hi, and welcome to your First Alert Weather Team's 2021 hurricane season special, Staying Ahead of the Storm. In this half hour, we'll look at how the Cape Fear region is bouncing back from past storms and seasons. We'll look ahead to what this year may bring, and most importantly, tell you how you can stay most aware and prepared. But first, it's been just 6 short months since the end of 2020's hurricane season. It was a bruiser for North Carolina and hyperactive all across the Atlantic basin. First Alert meteorologist Eric Davis has a look back at those dizzying times.
The 2020 hurricane season established a new record for named storms in the Atlantic basin. Of the 31 tropical depressions that formed, 30 of them graduated into named tropical storms. And of those, 13 turned into hurricanes, including 6 major hurricanes, numbers that rival those of the infamous 2005 Atlantic hurricane season. And by all measures, the numbers obliterate those of an average season. When plotted on a map, the tracks of these Atlantic systems look like a huge bowl of spaghetti. Storms formed quickly and often in 2020, and on many occasions, 3 or more storms were operating at the same time. Tropical storms Arthur and Bertha kicked off the season early in May. Bertha, which hit South Carolina, was the first of 12 U.S. landfallers. That's a record high. A lot of the names on the primary 2020 Atlantic storm basin list correspond to weak, short-lived storms. But as the season progressed, storm quality unfortunately began to catch up with the quantity. Laura, a Category 4 hurricane that hit Louisiana in August and 2020's strongest U.S. landfaller, was one of them. And for the only time apart from 2005, the primary names list wasn't enough, and letters of the Greek alphabet had to be added to label storms. Sadly, many of these were strong and impactful storms too. Category 2 Hurricane Zeta has the distinction of hitting the largest U.S. metro area of the 2020 season when it ripped across New Orleans in October. A particularly haunting wrinkle to the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season was the propensity for multiple storms to ravage the same areas over and over. For example, 10 named storms hit the U.S. Gulf Coast, 5 to Louisiana alone, including Hurricane Delta, which struck near Lake Charles in October, a landfall within 20 miles of Laura's just 2 months before. And in November, deadly hurricanes Eta and Iota dealt devastating blows to the coast of Nicaragua in Central America. Their landfalls also within 20 miles and just 2 weeks apart. In all, the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season took more than 400 lives and inflicted more than $40 billion in damage.
When Hurricane Isaias hit the Brunswick Islands, WECT News reporter Kendall McGee was among the first to share the tragic stories and scenes. Now, nearly a year later, Kendall revisited hard-hit Oak Island to see how it's recovering.
It was a very devastating storm.
The night Isaias bludgeoned Oak Island, Sheriff John Ingram was in the front seat of an MRAP, making rescues, like this family of 9 who called 911 in the middle of the night when waves crashed into their home.
We survived. That's the worst experience we've ever been in.
Caught a lot of people off guard. A lot of people felt like they could just ride the storm out.
Today, the sand is off the streets and the island is free of much of the debris. It's a far cry from where it was several months ago, when streets resembled rivers, making it impossible for first responders to get to many parts of the town.
If you remember, there were cars floating down the street here, and so when the water stopped flowing out of here, it rose up and was about waist deep here inside the station.
Oak Island Water Rescue has made a full recovery, though, thanks in part to the support of the community. Between T-shirt fundraisers and generous donors, they recently put the finishing touches on their new station.
But the whole time, nobody was down. I mean, after that initial, oh no, what are we going to do? It was, spirits were up. We just took it as another challenge to meet, and I think the whole town did the same thing.
It's a testament to Oak Island's resilience. Neighbors helping neighbors, coming together amid a pandemic, and making the repairs one board at a time.
It looks a little different on the beachfront, where they have removed the sand and put back, they built up berms. But it is back as beautiful as ever.
Isaias spotlighted an ongoing sight problem with our local National Weather Service Doppler radar, KLTX, near Shallotte. Trees block the lowest beams of this critical storm tracking tool. And while the blockages occur in all directions, the worst are on the radar's south side, which is the exact direction from which Isaias moved into the Cape Fear region, and many other storms have too. Our local National Weather Service office remains transparent about this problem, but frustratingly, Washington has not moved to actually execute a fix. The official line for those inspired to push for a radar site repair: contact your congressman. The trees around KLTX continue to grow, and WECT News will continue to highlight the problem, which is why we're taking a moment to mention it here. The first step to prepping for a hurricane is knowing your risk. What are the particular vulnerabilities of your family, your property? When you've answered those questions, then you can get to work. First Alert meteorologist Claire Fry helps you stock your family's 2021 hurricane kit.
The 2021 Atlantic hurricane season is officially here, and now is the time to get your preparedness kit ready if you haven't already. Emergency management officials recommend building 2 kits, a to-go kit, which should have 3 to 7 days worth of supplies, and one stay-at-home kit with 2 weeks worth of supplies. Here are a few of the basic items you should include.
Having a multi-purpose tool handy, paper products, utensils, and personal hygiene items are great for your hurricane preparedness kit. But food and water are essential. Make sure to have 1 gallon of water per person per day. That includes non-perishable items that don't require refrigeration, and don't forget to pack a can opener. Another important item you need handy before the storm hits is a weather radio. Don't forget those all-important household cleaning supplies. Also, if or when the power goes out, your family will need flashlights or lanterns to get around, and don't forget extra batteries. Have a stocked first aid kit ready at hand with gloves. Lastly, put important documents such as insurance policies in a sealed, waterproof bag.
Keep in mind, each family's kit will be different because each family has different needs. Don't forget about your pets, medications, and entertainment options for the young ones.
Good stuff from Claire, and coming up, we'll go one-on-one with First Alert meteorologist Colin Hackman. He recounts 25 years of storm coverage on the ground.
Our special look at the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season will continue in a moment, but first, let's put your tropical knowledge to the test. See how much you know about North Carolina's hurricanes with this question. Most landfalling hurricanes in North Carolina occur between July 15th and October 15th. Only 2 storms in the last 25 years did not. Which ones? Were they Hazel and Isabel, Bonnie and Ophelia, or Arthur and Bertha? I'll have the answer when we come back. And no Googling. Welcome back. So, which 2 hurricanes made landfall outside the July 15th to October 15th window? That would be Arthur and Bertha. Arthur made a landfall in the Outer Banks late in the evening of July 3rd, 2014. In fact, it's the earliest landfalling hurricane in North Carolina history. And Bertha made landfall between Wrightsville and Topsail beaches on July 12th, back in 1996. That caused an estimated $19 million in damages in New Hanover County alone. So how did you do? Well, if you didn't do so hot, don't worry, there will be plenty more questions and answers to come. But for now, let's get back to our Staying Ahead of the Storm special.
When your First Alert weather team spots nasty weather, technology like radar is crucial. But no storm tracking would be complete without good old-fashioned eyes on the ground. And in hurricane situations, that's First Alert meteorologist Colin Hackman. Meteorologist Colin Hackman, a familiar face around the First Alert Forecast Center. You've seen him in his full-time role. He's been in a part-time role for the last few years. Colin, I know your hours tend to go up during hurricane season because we use you in the field, my man. Thanks for joining us for this discussion today.
This is the most awesome thing. I mean, we get to talk about hurricanes without actually having to prepare for one.
Which storm left the most lasting impression on you?
Yeah, for me, it's Hurricane Fran. When the First Baptist steeple toppled into Market Street. When people we heard 911 calls of people afraid for their lives on barrier islands ready to get out that had not heeded warnings to evacuate. Those thoughts, that was all new to me. I'd lived in southeastern North Carolina a long time, but hadn't been face to face with a storm, and neither had our community for many years before Bertha and Fran, which both hit in 1996. Bertha, a warm up, and then Fran, for me, that's the one that I compare all the others to.
When you think about, okay, what am I doing on Tuesday when the storm is expected to hit Thursday? How does that approach change?
Sure.
And then you pivot to after the storm when you're talking to people who have been through the impacts.
I hate to use the word excitement, but that's what it is. You know, there's excitement and preparation. The schedule's going to change. School's out. You got to prepare for gas. You're doing all those last-minute things. That's happening. And then the storm hits, and news just hits you in the face. Weather's hitting you in the face. You're just reporting on where power lines are down, where roads are flooded, what kind of places are in danger. And then after the storm, you come to realize that people really are displaced. It's all business until you watch people trying to pick up the pieces, and then it becomes, personal. Like that could be you, that's your neighbor, and I think that's a perspective that we get here at WECT versus the guys that come in, to cover the storm. They're here and they're gone, and we're left to, be ready for the next time.
Right. Amazing perspective, Colin. Thanks for joining us. We love to see you around in hurricane season, but we'd like to see him for a studio shift.
This is
because
nice.
If he's out in the field, that means things are going down. And tons of stuff on the cutting room floor from my interview with Colin. So if you want to watch that full interview, head over to WECT.com for that. Still to come, we'll dig into the Hurricane Center that's on your First Alert weather app, and I'll have an outlook for the season ahead.
After the break, more from our look ahead to the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season. But first, another tropical trivia question for you to mull over. What is the record for the most hurricanes to make landfall in North Carolina in the span of a year? Is it 3, 4, or 5? Now, this is a toughie, but I'll bring you the answer when we come back. Glad you're back with us. Think you have it figured out? Well, if so, then you'll know that the correct answer had storms that fell in 2 different calendar years. It's 4. Now, it started with the infamous Hurricane Hazel landfalling as a devastating Category 4 hurricane near Calabash in October of 1954. Hurricane Connie was next, hitting the following year on August 12th in Atlantic Beach. Less than a week later, Hurricane Diane, a Category 1 storm, made landfall in Wilmington. And finally, there was Ione, which made a Port City collision September 19th as a Category 2 hurricane. How you doing so far? We'll have another chance for you to flex your knowledge muscle in a little bit, but for now, let's get back to our hurricane special.
We mention it often. It's extremely easy to track the tropics with your WECT weather app. Always a free download for your Apple or Android device. Gabe's here with me to show us just how easy it is.
Extremely easy, Gannon. From lightning and severe weather alerts and current conditions to tropical tracks, forecast videos, you have all the tools you need to stay in the know when a tropical storm threatens our area. So let's start with the basics, shall we? The interactive radar at the bottom of your screen. In addition to providing you with a past and future product, it'll show you the 5-day official forecast from the National Hurricane Center, along with any watches or warnings pertaining to those storms. The app allows you to store up to 4 favorite overlays from a list of over a dozen. Here's how to turn them on. On the radar, select the menu button below the 4 favorites, then select the Overlays tab. Tap Tropical Tracks to toggle the forecast cone on and off. Now, only tropical storms recognized by the National Hurricane Center will show up in the app, so past storms and other areas of interest will not appear. Now, to monitor the latest tropical watches and warnings, select Alerts, tap Tropical, and you'll find tornado, severe, and flooding alerts there. As you know, these happen concurrently with tropical storms, and depending on the amount of activity taking place, you may want to prioritize which layers you keep on in order to make the radar a little easier to read.
That's good advice to prioritize there, and it's important that everyone has those alerts engaged, right?
Yeah, it's very easy to do. All you have to do is tap on the menu button at the top corner of your screen, select location, and then select follow me. That will allow the app to follow you via your smart device's GPS. You can also create a marked location using your zip code, allowing you to watch over a specific location anywhere in the continental United States. Additionally, Gannon, the WECT weather app makes it easy to turn on alerts for the products you want and to turn off the ones you don't. On the home screen, tap on the menu button. You'll find the settings option where you can customize the type of push alerts that are sent to your phone and the sounds that are played during severe weather. Just toggle the alerts on and off. Very simple to do.
Love to customize those sounds, Gabe. Tell us what else is new on the digital front, specifically our baby, the .com/hurricane.
Yeah, we've made some changes that'll help you out on the First Alert Hurricane Center. All you have to do is head over to wect.com/hurricane. The website features a broad range of topics and information, including featured stories documenting the latest happenings in the Atlantic, the 2021 season outlook, free downloads, including links to the First Alert Weather app, the 2021 WECT Hurricane Survival Guide, and printable hurricane tracking maps. You'll also find a breakdown of things like the Saffir-Simpson scale, rip current information, explanations about things you may hear us talk about, like the cone of uncertainty, that's always a big one, what it means, and what you should do when you see your location appear in a 5-day hurricane forecast cone. There are also rules to live by and answers to some of your most frequently asked questions. Should we find ourselves in line for direct impacts from a storm, the website will be streamlined with different maps containing the latest forecast, tracks, watches, and warnings for the area, as well as pertinent information to keep you and your family safe.
Completely comprehensive. Great stuff, Gabe. Thanks so much.
Tropical trivia time, friends. More from our Staying Ahead of the Storm special to come after the break. You know, wind's one of the most destructive elements of any tropical storm. That's why we classify hurricanes on the Saffir-Simpson scale. So your question, what hurricane is responsible for Wilmington's all-time record wind gust? Is it Florence, Helene, or Hazel? Well, hold on to your hats and your answer. I'll tell you which one is correct when we return. We're back. Think you know the answer? Well, if you picked Hurricane Helene, you'd be right. Now, while the storm didn't make a landfall in southeastern North Carolina, it did bring about an astounding wind gust of 135 miles per hour. That's the strongest gust in Wilmington's history. Florence holds the #2 spot with a peak gust of 105 miles per hour. And Hazel was no slouch either, with a humbling 98 mile per hour gust. In fact, the 6th highest wind gusts recorded in Wilmington came from hurricanes, like the likes of 6 in 1881 with a wind speed of 103 miles per hour. Are you on a roll? Or is your mind drawing a blank? Well, don't worry, another trivia tidbit will be coming up later. But for now, let's get back to our Staying Ahead of the Storm special.
I've stepped out of the studio and onto Fort Fisher. Our Cape Fear coastline is beautiful, but battered. It's one of very few locations to have experienced true hurricane conditions in each of the last 3 years, with Florence, Dorian, and Isaias. The Atlantic Ocean can be humbling, but sometimes it gives us early clues as to what the next hurricane season may bring. The first clue is the temperature profile of the tropical and subtropical Atlantic. It's average to above average, so there will be ample fuel for storms. Average to above average shower patterns in Atlantic tropical Africa also suggest there will be the seeds for hurricanes, with plenty of tropical thunderstorm complexes. The last indicator is a big one, and it's actually rooted on the Pacific side. And this year, that is the lack of El Nino. When the waters of the equatorial Pacific are unusually warm, a phase that's often dubbed El Nino, strong jet stream winds usually develop across the Atlantic, which disrupt our storms. This year, there's not likely to be an El Nino, so we can't count on that disruptive influence for storms on the Atlantic side. All these are the chief reasons why long-range forecasters from NOAA, Colorado State University, and North Carolina State University are expecting average to above average storm counts across the Atlantic basin. And already, Tropical Storm Anna briefly formed near Bermuda. The weather pattern that supported a growing drought in the Carolinas in spring would tend to deflect tropical storms away from the Carolinas. At least in the early goings of hurricane season, the western Gulf of Mexico or Bermuda-style storm tracks would be favored. But the traditional peak Carolina hurricane season is July 15 through October 15, essentially the middle slice of the broader season, and that runs all the way to November 30th. Long way to go. So as always, patience, preparedness, and vigilance are the best courses.
We'll be back to wrap up our Staying Ahead of the Storm special in just a moment. But first, one final chance for you to test your knowledge of all things hurricane in North Carolina. In the aftermath of the state's biggest hurricanes, the cleanup process has been nothing short of time-consuming and expensive. So, what storm is the costliest on record in North Carolina? Is it Florence, Floyd, or Fran? I'll bring you the answer and the totals coming up in a moment. Back. Do you know the answer? It should be an easy gimme. The good news, you don't have to look too far in recent memory to find it. It's Hurricane Florence. The storm made landfall in Wrightsville Beach in 2018 and lingered for days afterwards. It also cost more than $22 billion in damages in North Carolina. Now, if you guessed Floyd of 1999, don't kick yourself either, because prior to Florence, it was the costliest, with damages statewide estimated at $6 billion. I hope you've enjoyed these trivial tidbits. If you didn't do so well, look at the bright side. You likely learned something new today. Now, here's Gannon.
Staying ahead of the storm isn't just the name of this special. It's the consistent goal of your First Alert weather team. We track storms with official NOAA products, but as your neighbors, you can count on us to add live, local, tangible, impact-based perspective. We love your company here on TV, but remember, if you can't join us here, your latest First Alert forecast text and video content just a tap away at WECT.com/hurricane and your always free WECT weather app. Thanks for joining us and have a safe season.